guys, it's Emily, and today I'm here to bring you my February wrap-up. I'm doing this vlog style throughout the month just because I don't think I'm going to have time in my video schedule to do a recent read, so I wanted to get my February books wrapped up somehow, and this seems like the most efficient way to do it. So right now I got 2 books to talk to you about, and unfortunately both of these 2 books were kind of like slow for me, and so I haven't gotten as many books read in February as I had hoped so far, but I think now that I finish these 2, my reading will pick up, and hopefully, my goal is to get 7 books read so far, and as the time of filming, I've only finished 4, which is a pretty good number, but anyway, let's just talk about these 2 books. The first one that I finished that was kind of slow was unfortunately The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. This I was reading for the Lord of the Ring-a-thon hosted by Krista, and I don't know why it was so slow this time. Like in the summer of 2012 when I first read all these, I read the whole thing in one summer, one right after the other. So I don't know why, but it just dragged a lot. It seemed like they were taking too long to get from place to place, and I don't know. They're just walking the whole time, which is fine, but it just didn't. It was hard to get through. And like, yeah, this is over 400 pages, but it was still. It took a lot longer to read than I had intended to, unfortunately. And now I'm not sure if I'm going to continue with the readathon or not. I might try doing the 2 Towers on audiobook and see if that helps. But yeah, this was kind of a little bit disappointing that it was such a slow read for me. I then finished Pioneer Girl, the annotated autobiography by Laura Ingalls Wilder, edited by Pamela Smith-Hill, and I started this during the Little House readathon, which was the February 7th through the 10th, and I read the first 150 pages of this during that period, which was great because I had family things going on too. But then after I did that, my momentum really slowed down, and it took me like a whole other 2 weeks to finish this, which was quite unfortunate. I think this is the adult memoir that Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote first before she ever wrote any of her children's books, and she tried to get it published and nobody would publish it, so she reworked part of it into Little House on the Prairie, which of course Little House in the Big Woods, which became the first book in the series. And so it's very slow going. It's got a lot of annotations because, and a lot of the annotations are very specific minutia that like most people, like I wasn't very interested in it. For example, they talked about like the wildlife of South Dakota and like the weather patterns, and like they would tell you the biography of like random townspeople that were only mentioned one time, and I don't know, I felt like the annotations could have been cut in half and you still would have had a pretty good reading experience. The pictures were really nice, and I did enjoy, and it was nice because some of the stories are things that ended up in the books, and so I was like, oh yeah, I recognize that. But on the whole, this was kind of slow, and I wouldn't really recommend it unless you're like a Laura Ingalls Wilder super fan. I am planning to keep this because it is a nice book, and the notes in the back are the resources in the back are very interesting. But yeah, on the whole, I was kind of disappointed in this. I have finished another book, and I'm quite excited. So after it took me so long to read the first 2, I'm making a lot better progress on the books I'm reading now. And I finished one of them, and that was Bel Canto by Ann Patchett, and I really enjoyed this. I actually had started this like a long time ago, like 15 years ago, and I read like the first chapter, and then I never did any more. I sort of remember I read it in a bookstore or something. I don't know, but anyway. So I finally finished this. And this is Ann Patchett's most famous novel, as y'all probably know. And it's about a group of guests at a birthday party. It's a birthday party for a very prominent businessman at the home of a vice president of a South American country that's not named, and they are all taken hostage by a terrorist group, and it's about the relationships that form between the members, the hostages, I don't know what the word is, but like the people that are being held hostage, the relationships between them, and then the relationships they start to form with their captors, and there's some romance, and there's some like discovering of what's really important in life, and things like that. So it's a really beautiful book. I will say that after I read this, I went on Goodreads and read some reviews, and there was a lot of controversy about this book because apparently this book is based on a real event, which I did not know, and people are kind of annoyed that Ann Patchett I took that event and used it for her own purposes, especially since the focus of the book is a white woman, an opera singer named Roxanne Coss, and then a Japanese man, the businessman that the party was for, named Mr. Hosokawa, and so none of like the people that actually live in the country are very prominent, although the terrorists are pretty prominent and become pretty important in the course of the book. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very beautiful. I thought the world was very evocative. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this if you're interested. Of course, I know a lot of people have already read it, but you know me, I get the books like really late all the time. So this is just my standard MO. I finished another book. I finished Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel, and I read it in this very ugly coverless edition, but I actually checked out this copy from the library so you can see the pretty cover. This is a book that's been on my TBR since last summer. I got this at a little free library, and so it's just been on my shelf, and now that I've finished it, I'm going to go give it back to the little free library. But anyway, this is a really short little book that is following a woman named Tita, who is a Hispanic woman living in Piedras Negras, which is a town just over the border of Mexico back in the I want to say like the mid 1800s or so. And she is a cook, and this story is different recipes that she makes through the course of a year, and we see her life through that year, although in the last chapter it jumps forward a lot. But anyway, so we see her life, and Tita is in love with a man named Pedro. But in Tita's family, the youngest daughter in the family has to stay home and take care of their mother, and she can't marry until the mother passes away. So her mother forbids her from marrying Pedro, and Pedro marries her sister instead in order to be able to stay in the same house as Tita. And then we see their life and how it progresses, the marriage, and then Pedro and Tita's sister Rosara have a child together, and we see how that relationship forms. And actually, I guess it's not actually a year in the terms of the story. It's just the chapters are a different month, so okay. Anyway, it follows a long time in your life. Is what I'm saying. But this was a pretty good book. I did say I felt like Tita's and Pedro's relationship wasn't really like established well enough for me to really root for them. And then also I felt like the ending was kind of like abrupt and weird in a way. And I think, so this has a magical realism element to it in the fact that Tita can influence the food that she cooks, and it makes people feel different emotions, and which is a concept that's, I think this book originated it, but it's been used in several other books I have read that came after this one. So anyway, the ending involves the magical realism aspect in a way that I won't spoil it, but it just seemed kind of abrupt. So this was a cute book, and I'm glad I read it. I definitely want to watch the movie, and I'm glad I got it off my TBR. I finished my 7th book in February, which I'm so excited about. Earlier in the month, when my first 2 books were going so slow, I was kind of worried I wouldn't make it, but I made it. And the 7th book of February was All Over But the Shoutin by Rick Bragg. And Rick Bragg is a writer, a reporter for the New York Times, and he actually grew up in rural Alabama in a very small town, and he and his family were in poverty. His father was an alcoholic and was basically not in his life at all, and then his mom worked like a lot of jobs. She was a cotton picker, and she did sewing, and she did laundry, and she did all kinds of stuff to, make money for her boys. She had three sons, Rick, and then his older brother Sam, and his younger brother Mark. And so it's about his childhood, and it's really like a love letter to his mother, honestly. It's just all about how she dedicated her life to improving the chances of her three sons. And Rick, of course, took advantage of that and became a world famous reporter who won the Pulitzer Prize for feature writing in 1996. So this is an amazing book. Rick Bragg is a beautiful writer. The people he describes in his small town in Alabama are just like really interesting people. It's a really interesting setting. He also talks about his journalism career. He spent a lot of time in Haiti covering the coup in the 90s and just the tragedies of Haiti. And he also did other things, covered murders, covered poverty, covered all kinds of stuff. And he also talks about living in New York and how that was a big culture shock for him. But yeah, it's just a wonderful book, a really great way to end my reading month, and I'm really glad that I finally read this. My mom let me borrow this 3 years ago, and I never got to it, and now I finally did. So I'm so thrilled that I finally finished. And yeah, so that's all I read in February, and I'll be back in March with my regular recent reads format. I definitely prefer that because I feel like for wrap-ups I barely say anything about the book, and then yet the videos continue to be really long, and I don't know what that's about. So yeah, I hope everybody has a great reading month in February, and that you're getting excited to read some great mysteries for March Mystery Madness. And I'll be back next week. Bye.